Tonight, we report on Evan Savoy being sentenced for a second time for a 2003 murder and how 4 people were arrested for numerous arson fires. What's going on in sports, Bob?
The Big Bend Lady Vikings picked up a much-needed win yesterday. Stick around to find out how they did it and who they play next. Let's take a look at our Weather Center forecast.
And coming up here in the weather department, we're looking at a rather unsettled weather pattern taking us through the work week. But the weekend is shaping out to be pretty nice. Details coming up.
I'm Alan Troop. Stay tuned for all of this and much more on iFIBER 1 News.
From the iFIBER 1 HD studio here in the heart of the Columbia Basin, this is iFIBER 1 News. Your #1 source for local news, sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. This is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Evan Savoy is going back to prison nearly a decade after killing a boy in Oasis Park. Douglas County Superior Court Judge John Hotchkiss sentenced Savoy to 20 years in prison today for the 2003 murder of Craig Sorger. The sentencing followed Savoy's guilty plea in November to murder in the second degree. The plea came as the man faced a second trial for the murder. The Washington State Court of Appeals Division III overturned Savoy's first conviction in October 2011, ruling a closed hearing violated Savoy's rights. Savoy was initially sentenced to 26 years in prison after a jury found him guilty of murder in the first degree. Savoy and Jake Eakin were 12 years old in 2003 when they beat and stabbed Sorger to death in Oasis Park in Ephrata. 4 people are suspected of starting 16 fires during the weekend, including one that destroyed a building in May Valley. A Franklin County Sheriff's deputy arrested Eli Johnson, a 24-year-old Eltopia man, Arthur R. Johnson, a 36-year-old Eltopia man, Teresa A. Ferris, a 24-year-old Othello woman, and Nicole M. Mink, a 31-year-old Eltopia woman, Sunday night on suspicion of arson, malicious mischief, and criminal trespassing. The Grant County Sheriff's Office reported the 4 allegedly started their arson spree Friday night with a series of 8 fires in Franklin and Adams counties before moving to Grant County, where they started 8 fires. The fires destroyed 4 haystacks and a former Army barracks in May Valley. The man who triggered a 4-hour standoff at an Airway Drive mobile home is going to prison. Roughly a month and a half after pleading guilty to delivering heroin, Sergio Herrera Giron, a 23-year-old Moses Lake man, was sentenced to 1 year and 5 months in prison. Herrera Giron's criminal history includes convictions for riot, unlawful possession of a firearm in the first degree, unlawful possession of a short-barreled shotgun, and possession of ecstasy. He faced between 1 year and 1 year and 8 months in prison. An investigation discovered Herrera Giron was selling heroin out of an Airway Drive mobile home near where he was arrested and released on $50,000 bail. He never appeared for his February 26th sentencing hearing, leading the judge to issue an arrest warrant. He hid in a clothes dryer in his mother's home to avoid arrest, causing a standoff. After negotiations failed, 7 flashbang grenades, tear gas, and being shot with a rubber bullet, Herrera Giron was arrested. A Moses Lake man was convicted of headbutting and choking his 12-year-old son after the boy swore at him. A Grant County jury deliberated for about an hour before finding Omar Carlos, a 38-year-old man, guilty of burglary in the first degree and assault of a child in the second degree. Carlos faces between 3 to 5 years in prison when he is sentenced. While driving to his ex-wife's home, Carlos became angry and insulted the woman while on the phone. As their 12-year-old son was exiting Carlos' pickup, the 2 exchanged offensive words. Carlos became angry and threw his son against a garage, head-butted him, and choked him before throwing him on the ground. Now let's take a look at people with warrants for their arrests that are wanted by the Quincy Police Department.
Each of the people you see here have warrants for their arrest and is wanted by law enforcement. If you see any of these people, the Quincy Police Department asks that you not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can call the Quincy Police Department at 509-787-4718 or 509-762 1160 after 5 p.m.
We will be back after this.